The devil himself said, "I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life."
It really stops you in your tracks, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like something out of a screenplay, maybe a darker season of Succession, but it's real.
It is. That is a direct quote from Jeffrey Epstein.
Speaking to Steve Bannon.
And this isn't some old, dredged-up recording. This interview was just released this month, February 2026.
Right. And the context is what makes it so jarring. They're not talking about private islands or, stock tips. They're arguing about the ethics of the polio vaccine.
Which is the exact moment this whole story pivots. It goes from being a sort of sordid true crime story into something much, much deeper.
Something about the political economy of global health.
Exactly. It sounds like a heavy term, but it's essential here. It basically asks, who pays for our health? What do they want in return? And, what happens when the people paying are like, well, people like Jeffrey Epstein?
So welcome to the deep dive. Today we're trying to connect a lot of dots that frankly feel like they shouldn't even be in the same room. We have a disgraced financier, a secret mission in 2018 to the tribal areas of Pakistan, a very specific type of vaccine tech.
The one and done shot?
And the inner circle of Bill Gates' top finance advisor. Our mission here is to figure out how these things all collide and why, right now in 2026, this whole web is causing a massive crisis in vaccine confidence.
A crisis that is, and this isn't an exaggeration, undoing decades of public health work.
To get to the bottom of this, we've got quite a stack of sources. We're looking at The Guardian's new coverage of these Bannon tapes. We have some pretty dense scientific papers on something called PLGA microspheres.
Which we will absolutely decode for you, don't worry.
An MIT fact-finding report and a really deep analytical report called The Convergence of Shadow Diplomacy and Global Health. So there's a lot to unpack.
There is, but I think we have to start with the psychology. We have to start with those tapes.
The Bannon tapes. Okay, so set the scene. This was filmed back in, 2019?
That's right, not long before Epstein was arrested for the last time. They're in his New York townhouse. And the whole backstory is that this was for a documentary.
A documentary.
Yeah, the idea was to produce something sympathetic to help him, quote, re-enter polite society.
That seems completely insane in hindsight.
It's unbelievable. And watching the footage now in 2026, the vibe is just so unsettling. The Guardian points out these strange production glitches.
Oh, right. The continuity error.
Yeah, there's a moment where Epstein's talking and his shirt and glasses literally change mid-sentence, but the camera just keeps rolling.
Like a glitch in the simulation.
It adds to this surreal, disjointed feeling. But what really stands out is the dynamic. I mean, Bannon isn't acting like some PR guy. He's aggressive.
Oh, I saw that clip. He calls him a schmuck right to his face. A criminal. And then he asks that incredible question, if Epstein is the devil fallen from paradise.
And this is where we get a real window into Epstein's mind, because most people, if you call them the devil, they get defensive or angry.
But Epstein, he gets philosophical.
He does. He starts going on this whole tangent about intuition.
Right. He says men want to measure everything, but women have this creepy feeling that science can't explain.
The irony is just staggering. But then he pivots to an analogy that I think is the key to understanding everything he does later in Pakistan. He calls it the lion in the forest.
This part was,
yeah,
this was tough to listen to.
It's deeply disturbing. He says to Bannon, imagine I'm in a forest with a lion and I'm competing with a local African to survive. He says Epstein is the one who gets eaten.
Why? Because he's out of shape or something?
No, it's because, in his mind, the local African has a different intelligence for that environment. He uses the word jungle to describe it.
That's straight out of, 19th century race science.
That is exactly what it is. It's pseudo-intellectual racism dressed up as evolutionary biology. He's creating this framework where he can say, I have my kind of intelligence, they have theirs. It allows him to completely separate himself from the people he claims he wants to help.
Dehumanizing them while pretending to be an objective scientist.
Precisely. And that arrogance, that detachment, it extends to his own crimes. Bannon really presses him. He asks, did you reflect on your crimes while you were in prison?
And Epstein's answer is just no.
Just no. He says he's a hermit, not a stoic. He jokes about getting extra almond joy bars in his cell. It's like prison was just a weird sabbatical for him.
There's zero acknowledgement of the victims.
None. Which brings us right back to that devil quote. Bannon challenges him. He asks, why should any institution take your dirty money?
And this is his big defense.
This is the core of it. Epstein's argument is pure, cold utilitarianism. He brings up polio. He says, look, if a mother in Pakistan has a child who's about to be paralyzed, does she care if the money for the vaccine came from the devil himself?
The ends justify the means.
He's saying his money saves lives, so who cares where it came from? He thinks he can literally buy his way out of being a monster by funding the cure.
Oh, he wasn't just funding it, was he? This is where the story gets really wild. I mean, I always pictured him just writing checks from a mansion.
Not at all. And that's where the shadow diplomacy report comes in. This wasn't just about money. Epstein actually went to Pakistan.
May 2013, Peshawar.
And we have to pause on that for a second. Peshawar in 2013, this was not a tourist spot. It was the gateway to the FATA, the federally administered tribal areas.
A stronghold for the Taliban and al-Qaeda.
It was an active, and I mean active, conflict zone. It was one of the most dangerous places on earth for any Westerner, let alone a, high-profile American financier.
So how did he even get in? With a massive security detail.
He used tradecraft. The report says he used a pseudonym, what he called, and I'm quoting, a pokey name, to get through security checkpoints.
A pokey name.
Yeah. The racial insensitivity we heard in the Bannon interview, it wasn't an act, that was how he talked, but he claimed it worked. He said the subject of polio disarmed them.
He weaponized public health.
He used it as a cover, a shield. But he wasn't just there to watch. He claimed he was there to negotiate. He reported back that he used a fixer to get a cell phone line to a senior Taliban commander.
Wait, he's saying he's personally negotiating with the Taliban?
That was the claim. The Taliban had banned vaccines in a lot of these areas, calling them spy tools. Epstein wanted to be the guy who could make a deal, outside of all the official diplomatic channels.
This has to be where that mechanism email comes in.
This is the smoking gun. It's an email from Dr. Boris Nikolic to Epstein. We'll get to who Nikolic is, but just listen to the phrasing. He writes, Bill raised all money for polio. Can you imagine with your mechanism?
Your mechanism. It sounds, I don't know, ominous. What does that even mean?
It means a shadow infrastructure. It's an informal network that can bypass the State Department, bypass the UN, and just get things done. Epstein was offering a back channel.
A secret pipeline.
A secret pipeline. He even claimed he was brokering a deal with the UAE government to cover 100% of the polio grants. He was acting like a shadow financier, a shadow diplomat.
Like his own little State Department.
And for someone like him, desperate to fix his reputation, solving polio in Pakistan, that would be the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card.
But to do that, it wasn't just about getting the Taliban to agree. He needed the vaccine itself to work in that environment. Which brings us to the science.
Right, because the problem on the ground isn't just political, it's logistical. In public health, they call it the last mile problem.
I've heard that. It's about that final step of delivery, right?
Exactly. But in a war zone, the last mile is an absolute nightmare. The issue is, a standard polio vaccine isn't a one-time shot. You need multiple doses, boosters, spaced out over months.
Okay.
So now imagine trying to do that in FATA. You have to find the same kid in the same remote mountain village 3 or 4 separate times, all while dodging roadblocks, drone strikes, and deep-seated suspicion.
It sounds impossible. You miss one booster and the whole thing fails.
That's it. So Epstein became obsessed with a technological fix, a one-and-done shot. The idea that if you only have one chance to reach that child, you need a vaccine that does all the work in one go.
And that's where this PLGA stuff comes in.
PLGA microspheres.
I saw that in the sources. It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. What is it?
So think of it like a time-release capsule, but it's microscopic. We have this paper here from the journal Vaccine. The title is Immunogenicity of Pulsatile Release PLGA Microspheres.
Pulsatile release, is that the key?
That's the magic word. See, most time-release tech just sort of leaks out slowly, but your immune system doesn't want a drip. It wants a punch, then a rest, then another punch. That's what a booster shot does.
It's like a reminder.
A reminder, exactly. So these little beads, you inject a mix of them. Some burst right away. That's dose 1. Others are designed to degrade really slowly, holding on to the vaccine until, say, week 4. Then, boom, they burst. That's dose 2.
All from a single injection.
One needle prick. The kid gets the shot once, and the chemistry inside their arm gives them the boosters automatically over the next few months.
That's incredible technology.
It's brilliant. The paper shows it worked in mice, generating the same antibody levels as multiple shots. If this can work in humans, it totally solves the last mile problem.
But I'm guessing there's a catch. This isn't just a random scientific paper.
Yeah. No. Take a look at the funding sources listed on that paper.
Okay, scrolling down to the footnotes. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Now look at the acknowledgments.
Thanks to Boris Nikolic for advice and guidance.
There's that name again, Boris Nikolic.
So who is this guy? Why is he the linchpin in all of this?
Dr. Boris Nikolic. He's a Harvard-trained immunologist, but more importantly, for years, he was the chief advisor for science and technology to Bill Gates. He was the bridge between the money and the science. He was the guy vetting the so-called mechanism.
And he was close with Epstein.
Close enough that when Epstein's will was finally revealed, Nikolic was named as a backup executor.
Whoa, backup executive. That is not a casual acquaintance.
Now, we have to be really clear here. Nikolic publicly said he was shocked. He claimed he had no idea he was named, and he immediately declined the role.
Okay, so he declined, but it shows how Epstein saw the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Epstein thought he was in the inner circle. He thought he was on the team.
And looking at this MIT report, it wasn't just Nikolic. Epstein was funneling money into MIT for exactly this kind of research.
$850,000. And this is where the institutional failure really comes into focus. The report shows that vice presidents at MIT knew he was a registered sex offender.
So why on earth did they take the money?
They wanted the cash without the reputational hit. They created what the report calls an informal framework to accept the money anonymously. Basically, we'll take your money, just don't tell anyone it's from you.
The ends justify the means again.
It's the same logic, but Epstein being Epstein.
He told everyone anyway.
Of course he did. And you had professors like Seth Lloyd, a famous quantum computing guy, taking $60,000 in personal gifts. The report says Lloyd purposefully hid Epstein's criminal record to keep the money flowing.
So if you zoom out, you've got the science advisor, Nikolic, the shadow diplomat, Epstein, and the funding source, Gates, all circling the same problem. On paper, it looks like this massive, innovative public health effort.
On paper, yes. It looks like progress. But we go back to that devil quote. Epstein thought he could make a trade. A monster who funds a cure.
And now, in 2026, we're seeing what that bargain actually produced.
And it is not a cure. It's a full-blown crisis.
Let's get into that fallout, because this isn't just a history lesson. This is happening right now.
It is. Polio is reemerging. We're seeing cases in New York, London, Israel. But in Pakistan, where this fight should be happening, we're seeing a totally new kind of resistance.
I was reading the Polio Pulse source about this. It mentioned something called quiet refusal. What is that?
Okay, so usually vaccine hesitancy is about, fear of side effects. It'll make my kids sick, or I don't trust the drug companies. This is different. The entire narrative has shifted to ethics.
How so?
Disinformation networks are weaponizing these Epstein files. The argument they're making is, look, the people funding this program were tied to a known predator. If the program took dirty money, the program itself is dirty.
It's morally tainted.
Exactly. So parents aren't shouting at health workers. They're just quietly saying, no, thank you. They see the whole campaign as an elite-driven agenda. And when you look at the facts, the shadow diplomacy, the secret deals, it feeds right into that conspiracy.
It validates their deepest fears.
It does, and you have to remember the history there. It's an echo of Abbottabad.
The bin Laden raid back in 2011.
Yes. Remember how they found him? The CIA ran a fake hepatitis vaccination campaign to try and get DNA from the compound.
I remember that. It was a huge scandal.
It destroyed trust in public health in that region for a decade. People felt, correctly, that they had been used, that health workers were just spies.
And now, just as that trust might have been rebuilding, this Epstein story breaks.
It rips the wound right back open. It confirms every suspicion that these programs are covers for something else. Elite manipulation, shadow diplomacy, these mechanisms.
And what's the political impact of this?
Yeah.
It must be a mess.
It's a catastrophe. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan is now being painted as an appeaser to these Western elites because he supported the GPCI, the main polio initiative. It's shattering the political unity you need to fight a virus.
It's just tragic.
Oh.
Because the technology itself, those PLGA microspheres, it actually sounds like it could work. It could save lives.
That's the core of the tragedy. The science is sound, the goal is noble, but Epstein's involvement has become what one expert called reputational radioactive fallout.
You can't touch the tech because it glows with his name on it.
Precisely. Even if the microspheres are perfect, who is going to accept a Gates-Epstein vaccine in a region that already thinks Western elites are trying to harm them?
So to bring this all together, we started with Epstein asking if he was the devil, thinking you could make a simple trade.
Yeah.
His dirty money for a child's life.
He thought the ends justified the means. He thought he was smart enough to outrun his own history.
But the data coming out of 2026 shows us the complete opposite is true.
It does. The means, the shadow diplomacy, the ethical shortcuts, the dirty money are now actively destroying the ends. The virus is spreading because the trust has been completely vaporized.
It makes you totally rethink that whole concept of the last mile.
It really does. We think of it as a physical barrier, a mountain, a war zone. But I think what this story proves is that the hardest mile to cross, it isn't physical at all.
It's the trust.
It's the trust gap. And you cannot build a bridge over that gap with dirty money. When global health gets too close to shadow power, the bridge doesn't just get shaky. It collapses.
That is a heavy thought to leave this on, but a really important one. Thank you for walking us through all this.
Of course.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.